Hello and welcome to Houston Indie Podcast Society. This is a live stream where we talk about podcasting from podcasters. So you guys know what the deal is. I'm Jared.
I'm Carrie. How are you doing, man?
And I'm doing okay. How are you, Carrie?
I'm great. It's been a month, but we can talk about that later.
Oh man, it has been a real month. You are correct. So this is March 2nd. Obviously, you guys see that Ming is not with us right now, but Ming is on his way. He had a couple other things that he was doing, but he did want to make an appearance, so he'll be here as soon as he can. This is our February episode. We had some delays, some setbacks. Texas shut down for a week, and yeah, now we are here. But yeah, so until Ming gets here, we kind of wanted to go over newer podcasters. We do have Omar Lisandro here with us. Hey, Omar, how's it going?
Hi, Omar.
Omar is a personal friend of mine, and he is a new podcaster who is working on a project with me, actually. And we kind of wanted to go over newer podcasters and what they can look out for, where they can get started, and what they can do to actually get going. So, Omar, how's it going?
Good. All things considered.
All things considered, for sure. I mean, you do live here in Houston with me and Carrie.
Yes.
So you were definitely in that week-long shutdown.
Was everybody?
Texas, so.
First of all, did everybody make it out okay? Did you lose power, water, all that stuff?
Yeah, I had survivor's guilt because I didn't. I live in downtown, like I'm all in Texas and Maine. So, I guess we got a little bit of a favor from the power gods.
What building? Where are you at?
I'm in the Rice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm at the Rice Loft. So, like, we didn't lose power, we didn't lose water, we didn't lose internet.
Yeah, I had some friends that are in that area, and they're like, they felt bad about it. I'm like, sorry. Luckily we had lower water pressure, but we lost power for about 24 hours, and it came back. So we made it out lucky,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. See, I didn't have power for probably about 4 days. Water for that same time. So.
That's
every
crazy,
time I
man.
went somewhere trying to find power and water, the power and water would go away. So
Right.
It was following me. So that was really fun. All right. So new podcasters. I guess we wanted to talk about newer podcasters and the things that we kind of went through whenever we started podcasting. Carrie, it's been a long time since you started podcasting. It's been a long time since I started podcasting, but not quite as long.
What, you're making me feel really old now.
Don't feel old. Just be the godfather of podcasting, I guess.
No, I'm not going to say that. Well, if people that don't know, I started back in 2005. First, I've always been a metalhead, and I used to do a fanzine back in the day, and we were looking for new ways to take our fanzine in a new direction. We didn't just want to do an online version of it. That's sort of boring. And me, Jared, I'm a huge Disney nerd like you. I heard I heard Inside the Magic and I heard Window to the Magic. So the first two podcasts I ever heard, I was like, oh, there's these people talking about topics that I really like. And we sort of took that that template they were doing, and the fanzine I was doing was called Mainstream Resistance. So that's how MSR was formed, MSR Cast. So, and it was very difficult back in the day for people to really understand what you were doing. What's a podcast? Do I have to have an iPod to listen to it? There was a lot of hurdles that took years to overcome. I think it was only in the past 5 years, really, that celebrities started getting involved in things like that it's really taken on a name for itself,
Oh yeah, for sure. Usually it was just people kind of talking into the void, not really having a listenership, but I mean, obviously it is growing exponentially. So every day you get new listeners and new followers. So it's a fun time to be a podcaster right now, I think.
Yeah, there's only millions of them now, so
only.
But with that being said, there's room for more. There's room for special niches. If you have something like we've talked about on this show before, if you have something that you think would work and you're excited about the topic, go for it. You can make it work.
See, in Omar, I think that's kind of where we decided to bring our project up and try to get it going. Because for those who don't know Omar is a well-known fashion stylist here in Houston. He is basically the guru of fashion, anything Houston. He's styled celebrities. He's styled, it's in Houston. So he is a name to know for sure in fashion. So the project that Omar and I are working on is fashion and film. And, it brings up podcast what you know. They say write what you know.
Mhm.
Well, podcast what you know as well, for sure, because
And
you're gonna have.
I have no idea about any kind of fashion sense, so I'm wearing
I really don't either, and that's where Omar comes in for sure.
I'm wearing camo pants and a black hoodie sweater. So
I mean, I think that's the thing with a lot of people, that they say that, but in reality, what most people don't realize is that you since the day that you sit in front of a TV are taught archetypes of people, and you're kind of groomed to gravitate towards these archetypes of people that cartoons set up with you. So if you have a cartoon like Recess, with those characters, you could tell who the bad boy was. You could tell who the smart person was. And so in me and Jared having these conversations just watching movies, and I would always talk about things from the perspective of the costume designer. He would always talk about things from the perspective of the film, and how they kind of both moved each other is what made us realize that other people probably have some of those same questions or curiosities as well.
that's a very good point. I never thought about that, but I mean, yeah, you're groomed from an early age watching, because you can look at somebody's outfit and tell what era that TV show was from, or that's
Absolutely.
why that's what I've been really loving WandaVision so much, is all the fashion and the architecture and all that kind of stuff, just taking from those old TV shows,
Yeah.
So before we get into WandaVision, hold on real quick.
no.
Ming did join with us. Hello, Ming. How's it going?
Hey, sorry, I was trapped in the hex, guys. What do you want me to do? I mean, how great is it that that takes place in New Jersey, by the way? So,
Wanda, let him go.
yeah, she won't let me go. I'm trapped in my own body.
Well, we're happy to have you here with us, Ming. So, Omar, I think that kind of brings us to why we decided to start working on this project that we're working on now, is because out of everything, we haven't really seen anything else that covers specifically fashion and film. So,
No.
Anytime I've talked to people, I know that anytime Omar has talked to people, they've been very interested, because there's just a lacking in the community. There might be a few here and there that talk about it, but obviously not in the style that we do. Marilyn Vance herself, who is a Oscar-nominated costume designer, has started her own show, kind of talking with costume designers as well. So that fits into the realm of what we're doing, but still not exactly what we decided to do, and talking about the characters and the costume all at the same time.
No, because I think a lot of people, again, don't realize how much those things influence each other. You go and watch a movie and you get excited about it, and all of a sudden, a year from now, you find yourself gravitating towards a color, or you go buy a new pair of glasses, and maybe this character had a pair of Ray-Ban S type of glasses, and you pick them up because you're like, I'm curious about them, and then your perception changes, because you kind of allow these characters allow your mind that freedom of kind of exploration, as when you're a kid and learning things. And so a lot of the work I do is kind of helping people find an acceptance through fashion, because a lot of people wear clothes to hide in and wear clothes to kind of just cover up, when it's something that you have to validate for yourself, because it says so much about where you spend your money, how you choose your life, who you spend your time with, and what you find important, even if it's buying t-shirts from cons of places and shows that you like. It's like you're advertising for them. You're sharing this camaraderie with people that you might not even know. Somebody might just see you walking and be like, oh man, I love that show. I should rewatch that. And it helps a lot. I think it helps people feel a little bit less alone when everything is just everywhere and there's millions of people and everybody has profiles and agendas, and it's kind of like, I see you.
I'm glad you brought that up because, yeah, you're totally right. Even if you're supporting like your friend's band or their company or your favorite TV show, it's especially like that in the metal scene. They have, battle jackets. And what you do is you put all your favorite bands on there and then you wear it out and you get that camaraderie. It's like, oh, hey, you like the same bands that I like. And it's a fashion thing. It is.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, unfortunately, the industry of fashion and costume design have always been these two parallels that influence each other, but don't really outwardly acknowledge that. It's like a long time ago, I've always had this obsession with like knowledge and the historical side of costume design. And I like to pick apart certain years and figure out where the micro trends started. And so I realized a few years ago, I was trying to pick apart specifically 1988 through 1991, because I noticed following the 1980s fashion, it was like we got to the late 80s and all of a sudden there was this obsession with wanting to throw back to the 60s, which is ironic because most of the 80s was throwing back to the 50s. And I was like, man, what would spark them to not do the thing where the 70s jumped around to the 20s, the 50s jumped around to like the Victorian age? What would make them kind of like almost linearly follow the decade right behind this one? And then I realized that one of this big designers, Christian Dior, had this kind of capsule collection that had a bunch of mini skirts, which hadn't been popular in a long time. And that was inspired because in early 1988, Hairspray came out. And he'd seen Hairspray, and he got super excited about all the go-go stuff. And this artist called Peter Max, who did a lot of the psychedelic, Yellow Submarine type of like posters and stuff, happened to be doing like a retrospective collection. And so it was like all these things coincided, and then a lot of the next 4 years got spent doing a throwback to the 1960s, which is why like all the early videos have color blocking and all these weird things. And so it made me think about how many times that's happened. And you just kind of go with it, and then next thing you know, you're like, man, where did that trend even start?
I don't know much about fashion, but it is, correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't fashion sort of like cyclical? Like every 20 years, stuff comes back into fashion, sort of?
Yeah, but then a movie can come out and it can completely railroad. It's like Mad Men. Everything was set to kind of do this trendy, skinny thing, and the suits were getting super weird. And then all of a sudden, Mad Men just kind of reset everybody to fall in love with the JFK era. And all of a sudden, skinny suits and skinny top. I mean, you couldn't find one to save your life. I mean, it was like everybody scrapped what was on the runway the season before and then was just like, yeah, this is what we're doing, And then all these vintage resellers came out of nowhere, selling like a lot of 50s stuff that they've been hanging on to forever. So that is true, but then it's like a film or a show come out, and then next thing you know, that's the next big thing because people get excited about it all over again. Which goes to show that that's such an important topic to talk about, and that's why we wanted to start this podcast, because I feel like there are a lot of people that recognize that and feel kind of excluded from that conversation, and so we wanted to include them on that conversation.
So the concept I know is film and fashion, but how are you going to be setting up? Are you guys going to pick a film each episode and talk about the fashion in the film specifically?
Yes. So we usually typically pick a film. We don't necessarily kind of follow an order, because I know we've done Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I know we've done Blow. We did Pretty in Pink, which was a Marilyn Vance film, and we actually got to talk to her for that film, which was just absolutely incredible. She's also the same costume designer for Breakfast Club. No, Pretty in Pink.
She did The Untouchables. She did Ferris Bueller. She did
Ferris Bueller. That's the other one.
Pretty Woman, which Pretty Woman is the one that we did, not Pretty in Pink, yeah, but we do have that one scheduled to do as well. And basically what we do, we take our 3 favorite outfits and we talk about them and how they relate to the movie and the characters in general, in whatever moment that they are in. So it's a very fun idea that, I mean, we really hadn't heard anything else that is even similar to it. So I think that whenever it comes down to new podcasts and new podcasters specifically, find a partner if you're looking for a co-host. If you're not looking to go solo, which it seems like a lot of new podcasters aren't wanting to go solo just because it takes so much time and energy to be able to be a solo podcaster right now. I think that going with a co-host can help alleviate the anxiety of starting a podcast for sure.
Yeah.
It takes somebody that you know pretty well and it puts them in the same situation so you can kind of bond over that a little bit more. But really, in all honesty, like I said, podcast what you know. And Omar knows fashion. I know at least to some degree film. And yeah, we decided to put those two together, and I think we came out with a strong idea.
That's
Now,
it's like the ultimate team up, man. I love it. I love it.
Right.
It's a great idea for a podcast too. You've there are a million movies out there. You guys could potentially never end. I love it.
Yeah, and there's also a million movie podcasts as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a million fashion podcasts, but none that we've seen that have put those two together.
Yeah, you just reminded me of a story. The one of the most sought after items in my world, people were constantly asking me, it was like, "Hey, where do I get the Silent Bob jacket that Kevin wears?" And pretty much from Clerks on down, it's a long trench coat, it's green
Yeah.
and and I think the first one Kevin got was from an old mall store called Oak Tree. I don't know if
Yep.
you're old enough to remember old Oak Tree.
I do. I have some of their stuff.
Yeah, back in the day, they're no longer around, unfortunately. And then I think from like Clerks 2 on, they were custom made for him. But there was such a demand for that jacket that a Canadian company called Abbey Shot was like, "Hey, if you send us the one of your double jackets, we just want the look and the cut. We'll deconstruct it. We'll sell it, in limited quantity, but we'll mass produce it." And they did with Kevin's blessing, and it became a pretty hot seller. And
That's
now,
very cool.
yeah, and it wasn't cheap, and they would take your rough measurements. It was somewhat custom made. I think it was like $300, which for
It's not bad.
for a movie double,
Yeah.
replica jacket with the blessing from the creators is not bad, and sold a bunch of those. But now Kevin teamed up with it's a Halloween costume company called Fun.com, I believe.
Yeah.
And you can buy like the Silent Bob costume now with it's a thinner quality jacket, but it looks pretty good. So movie fashion is fun. That's the bottom line. So much
It
fun.
really is.
Yeah, and it's more, and I think it's more relatable to more people because even people that don't consider themselves fashion people always want to be their favorite superhero or are influenced by something they just saw, even if they don't recognize that they are. More so than watching a runway show or anything else. It's like because of Schitt's Creek, everybody is like obsessed with black and diamonds and jewels and all these ruffle crazy things, and all these like obscure boutique brands out of like New York are getting all this love because of David's character and him wearing all those super quirky things. It's like
The lightning bolt sweater for sure.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's also like I think in film versus fashion kind of is always from a designer standpoint just kind of echoed an overall social conscience for a people in a demographic that has spending power. Movies, and especially in costume designs, are slaves to the characters. And that always has to come first without compromise. And so when you have these iconic characters, it's almost like them being in the forefront in any way gives people a bit more of a pass to have a little bit more liberation, because they're just like, well, this character is doing that, and everybody's like, well, that's cool. Well, yeah, all right, I'll kind of echo in and try something different or whatever, and then when they don't get the feedback that they expect as far as like negativity, it's like, oh, well, yeah, that's cool. I feel like myself more. I should try more.
Well, I mean, there's a reason. There's a reason why there's a costuming category in the Oscars.
Absolutely,
For sure.
absolutely. And I mean, most of the things like I can hold up a white friend's jacket to most people between the age of 35 and 55, and they're going to be like, Sloan. You're going to know that. You can see like a long red dress, and you're going to be like, oh, that's absolutely Pretty Woman. If you see a vest with faux cheetah fur on it, you're like, oh, that's absolutely Ferris Bueller. I mean, it's like you see tiny glasses, and you're like, oh, Morpheus, or Wild Wild West, depending on how old or young.
What your true niche is. Yeah.
I mean, we all recognize these tropes. You just recognize them for what they are, and so I just love that we get to talk about it with a good friend, which is, I guess, like Jared was saying, it's like, podcast what it's just like us recording the conversations that we're having about these anyways.
Yeah.
Now,
exactly.
Omar, since you are a first-time podcaster, did you have any overwhelming feelings when you were getting into it? Any questions, anything like that?
Yes, I was nervous because weirdly, I'm very comfortable in front of a camera because of my job, and especially because I work a lot with musicians. I get interviewed a lot, and I've been invited on the news multiple times. And so doing that in podcasts, people don't see you, they hear you. And I definitely have a Mike Tyson syndrome where I'm a 6'4" dude with this tiny voice, compared to like what you would expect. And so, I don't know. Jared had to kind of talk me off the ledge with that because I was just like, oh my God, I don't think I have a radio voice, but I think we have something cool to say. So that was definitely nerve-wracking, and just kind of the worry of, are people going to be as excited about this as you are? And are they going to be able to not only relate, but really connect and enjoy spending their time with you in whatever block that you give them, half an hour, 45 minutes. That's really what this is them allowing you into their lives for a little while. And so that was a lot of my nerves. And I wanted to make sure that we also didn't come off as what typical fashion comes off as, this very, posh elite thing where it's like, well, you're not cool enough to know, and you don't have enough money to know what this is. So,
right.
This isn't for you. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted it to kind of be more everyman's, because we've all watched the movies. So, yeah.
Because I definitely don't know fashion at all. I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy.
Yeah, he says that, but ask him about his shoe collection though.
Oh, a shoe collection.
I do like shoes.
Mm-hmm.
That counts. That's fashion. That counts.
That's right.
It is fashion, but I don't know. It's not like I'm not putting on shoes to make. Well, I now that I'm thinking about it, yeah.
Don't lie, man.
I put my shoes on to complete an outfit. That is, true,
when you put on a pair of cool shoes and you walk around, you feel good about yourself. You're like, yeah.
I don't.
No, I love my shoes for sure.
I don't believe you for a second. Do you remember one piece or item? You're watching a movie, you're like, oh, holy crap, I need that. I need to find out who made that. I need to find out where I can get that. Do you remember one thing that was like you immediately you had to seek it out?
Yeah, I have several. I have that all the time. And weirdly, what'll happen now is that I'll watch something and I'll have it. Like this sweater. Oh my God, I can't remember the music video, but there's a rap video where the guy is parodying. It's a big white guy, and he's parodying Coming to America. I cannot believe I don't remember his name. And he's wearing another version of this sweater from the same brand. Because there's it's hand knit, so the colors are kind of organized differently, but it's essentially the same pattern. So there's that, and then I had an obsession, and I still do, with Miami Vice, and I had to figure out who, what, when, and where, and why. And so I have a couple of like the frames and glasses from that show, which, believe it or not, are really hard to track down.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. A lot of that stuff is vintage now.
And also they were wearing. I mean, particularly, so Miami Vice gave Gianni Versace his first real career, and the same thing with Armani. I mean, it put them on the center stage, and that's what they were wearing most of the time, and especially all of these other obscure European brands. So it's like tracking them down can be super crazy. But I want to say that it was probably Miami Vice. There's a couple of early Versace suits from 1986 and 87 that I just had to have. And particularly a pair of glasses that I wear a lot, that Joseph Turkel, of all people, he's like this kingpin, and he wears a super funky, crazy pair of like double-hinged glasses. And I spent 2 years figuring out what they were, and then getting a pair.
That's cool. It's funny you bring up glasses. Yeah, I'm obsessed with sunglasses. I spent a year tracking down there are these sunglasses with like side shades from the movie The Arrival, not the most recent one, but the one about aliens with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
Those really stuck out. And I tracked them down. They were made by some French company, and I think I found them on eBay. And then the first X-Men movie, the Oakley Juliets.
That's right.
I think they were made out of some kind of weird titanium alloy. They were over $300, but I saved up a bunch of money so I could get those sunglasses. I was obsessed with them. Those were two that stand out to me. And then the suit that Tom Cruise wears in Mission Impossible, the one where they go to Dubai. It's a blue suit. It's a little shiny, and it's an amazing suit, custom made, unfortunately. But I think there are like Asian seamstresses or tailors that you can order from. I haven't been brave enough to send them my measurements to see what I might get back. But those are three things I was like, whoa, that's awesome. Like I immediately saw those, and those stood out to me. And I you become borderline obsessed. You go and you get message boards, and wherever you can find them, and you ask around, it's like, hey, does anybody know? Maybe somebody knows the costume designer. Maybe somebody has an inside track. But it's crazy how we see something like that. It's like, man, I would love to have that one day. Or if it's available, I'm going to go get it right now.
Yeah, I've gotten, because of my obsession with that, I've gotten really good at like tracking down things, and kind of because I know so many brands and I kind of know the periods really well. Like when I was watching The Mexican with a friend recently, and Brad Pitt, I guess, since the mid '90s, has just had this really good relationship with the glasses people, Oliver Peoples. So a lot of the glasses he wears personally and in films are usually Oliver Peoples, and he has this like, they're kind of like these, where they have like a little bit of a blue tint, and they're light because the early 2000s was all about shades and not about like actual sunglasses, because you wanted to see your eyes with a little bit of color. And I saw that movie, and he has these blue pair of glasses with this floating sort of lenses, and I was like, I was like literally watching the movie, and I was like, I bet you those look like Oliver Peoples. And then I found a pair, and they were like, nope, of course, because I'm the only person who would know that, and I bought them on eBay for like, I think they were asking $62. And I was like, I'm going to be an asshole, and I'm just going to offer them $45 because they don't know what I know. And then I got them for $45. So whenever I feel a little Y2K, and The Sopranos, recently, I forgot about that. I have an obsession with these silk bowling shirts that are throwback from the 50s because of Tony Soprano. They're not Nat Nast shirts. And they look like 50s shirts, but they have that 90s bagginess. And now I have like 40 of them because, James Gandolfini.
Because why not?
Like, hey, those are okay. Yeah.
That's awesome. These are all stories you're going to tell on the podcast. So this is so cool. I think this is such a great idea.
So let's learn a little bit more about the podcast. How did you come up with the name? And then when's it going to start being out there for everybody to check out?
So the name is the Wardrobe Department, and we actually have decided that we're going to be putting it primarily on YouTube and doing it as like a video podcast, just because the fashion in the film really calls to you. You have to have a visual to some degree.
Makes sense.
So production takes a little bit longer. We're still trying to get the format, and I mean, I think we have a pretty good format, but I think we just need to reduce a little bit and just maximize our airtime as much as possible. But yeah, I think that where it comes into play is I have experience with podcasting. Omar doesn't really. I mean, we did do a couple test episodes, and in one of those test episodes, we actually got to talk to Marilyn Vance, which was really cool. Basically, the first test that we did was talking to Marilyn Vance, who, again, like I said, is a Oscar-nominated costume designer. So.
Yeah.
She was really excited about the project as well. And I know that I talked about her project too, and I kind of feel like we had a hand in her deciding to do that. So can't say that officially, but I think that we did. I think we kind of pushed her in
you're a
the direction.
podcast influencer now.
Well, I try to be, but I think that it really helps Omar to know that I have experience. I mean, I have about 5 years of experience in podcasting, so that knowledge comes in handy whenever you're dealing with somebody who is a newer podcaster. It helps them get a little bit more comfortable. Omar, like he said, was already comfortable behind the camera, or in front of the camera, I guess, and he just really wasn't comfortable in front of a mic. So it was helping him get a little bit more comfortable and getting the confidence to be who I know he can be, because he's an extremely intelligent guy, has a lot of knowledge whenever it comes to fashion and to film as well to some degree. So, it's just, if you're a new podcaster and you're looking for a co-host, probably look for somebody who's done podcasting before, because it's going to help you in the long run. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you have somebody who's just brand new, just like you are, it isn't going to be a success, because we've seen that happen. I mean, there are successes all across the world where people just decided to start a podcast together one day and it just takes off.
I mean, if you research and you devote your time into learning about it, you can make it succeed. Even if you've never ever done one before, it can happen.
Oh, for sure.
You just need to read about it.
I think the most important part is you have to have somebody that you can hold a conversation with. And I don't mean like talk to, but genuinely have a conversation where you pick up on cues and lead into points and lead back to points and kind of pick up off of each other, and don't find yourself at this loss for words where you're kind of like, it makes it a lot easier, I feel like, because that's what made me comfortable wanting to do it. Because I think Jared had to really talk me into it. I think you were talking to me about it for like a year, and I was like, dude, I have a publication. I'm like, I'm just coming off a tour with the Suffers. I'm working with To Whom It May. I'm working on my second video for Used to Love for BET. I'm like, I don't think I want to like talk into a mic, especially with my Tyson syndrome. And I was like, that's the last place that I should be. I'm like, if at least I look nice and I talk, people are like, oh, that's a nice sweater, man. But
it's okay, dude.
Yeah,
I have been doing it for how many years, and I have a major lisp. I knew I had made it when somebody made fun of me on a message board. I'm like, all right, they made fun of my lisp. I'm good. I've made it. So don't worry about it, man.
Okay, well, it makes me feel better, because I'm just like, oh man, I'm like, I feel like I'm gonna be one of those podcasters that people are like, it's like, that can't be Omar. No, that has to be Jared talking right now, because Jared's voice is so much deeper than mine. And so I had to kind of like get over that whole thing. And so after he talked to me about it, right, I mean, it had to be the better part of a year and a half. We kind of started just test running it, and he's right. I mean, because he was just so versed and kind of getting everything set up, I wasn't so freaked out about like, I don't know anything about production. I'm very fortunate that in the aspects that I work in, essentially everybody's running around setting up lights and stuff, and I show up with 2 rolling racks full of clothes, and I'm just like, alrighty then, let's get you dressed while they figure all that stuff out. And so that's what this kind of was. And it made it, again, a lot easier. So I definitely feel like I'm charmed in that way.
So you guys are podcasting together. How do you guys know each other? How did y'all meet?
Tinder?
Grinder.
Grinder? Okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't going to say.
No, we definitely met because we have a lot of mutual friends. It just, the list goes on. We have a lot of mutual friends.
I think we actually officially met at the 48 hour, right? Because we kind of
did
before that, and then I work with this film company called Blueprint Film Co., who I'd already done some videos and stuff with, and then they did a 48 hour film festival where we went out to that ranch in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say that, but it was like probably 2 hours away. And I think we met there. It's the Last Bounty, and I think that's where we officially like got to talk and hang out. Well, the first time.
But I mean, still beyond that, we do still have a lot of mutual friends outside of that production company, which that production company is here in Houston as well. So if you're looking for some,
sorry.
That's all right. So if you're looking for,
he's caught in the hex, man.
Oh no!
Oh no, Wanda got him.
Expanded the hex to Houston. Oh no! That's all.
Uh-oh.
Okay, so while Omar tries to figure out what's going on with his camera, we'll kind of go into like newer podcasters and stuff like that in general. Obviously, if you can get into a spot where you have a co-host or you yourself know the audio settings, you have interfaces that you deal with on a daily basis, or just some kind of knowledge in audio quality and stuff like that, that's definitely a good starting point. But if you don't know any of that, then you can go to some place like a shared universe, because Ming, you guys are doing some great stuff for podcasters, and I know that you're not the only one, but obviously you're the one that's here, so we're going to promote you.
Thank you. But, I appreciate that. And we will be down in Houston soon. I'm working on it.
Oh man, I can't wait.
I'm working on it. So one thing, you're talking about co-hosts. So out of all the podcasts that come in here, and we have a lot of them, so many I've lost count. I would say maybe 95% of them have some kind of co-host, or at least they invite a guest. The other 5%, very seldom do people come in and do it by themselves. You got to be pretty comfortable with yourself and your voice. And but that being said, we do have a couple guys. They're mainly in the health and fitness and motivational category, but they can sit down for 45 minutes and just go without stopping with as much passion at minute 1 as they do at minute 45. So I know if that's you and you're out there, by all means, definitely go for it.
Yeah, right. I've tried going. Sometimes I have to go back and like fix something or like do an intro. I get lost just doing it by myself. I have to have somebody to work with.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard. I was like, man, I sound stupid. Or I don't sound. This sounds weird. Like I truly, like me, I don't think I've ever done one by myself. I need someone to bounce stuff off of.
Yeah.
I need someone to reply. I need someone to laugh at my jokes. Most importantly, I need someone to make fun of, and usually that's Mike Sampson, co-star of Comic Book Men.
Yeah, every podcaster has to have somebody they could make fun of on their show, and they can play off of each other and laugh at their other jokes.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other thing is, if you do get a co-host or co-hosts, the most important thing, they gotta be reliable. If you got a guy or a co-host like, oh, I can't make it this week, or my girlfriend needs me, I gotta wash my dog, whatever. I'm like, so you can't take an hour out of your week to do this. Maybe this isn't gonna work. And I've seen that all too often. I think that's probably one of the number one reason why some podcasts go 5-6 episodes and you never hear from them again. It's usually unreliable co-hosts. So I always recommend, if you're gonna grab a co-host, get someone who's as passionate as you are about doing it, and they're out there for sure. But Yeah, if you see if they're gonna flake out on you, it's probably not gonna work out long term. So or even short term for that matter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just one of my biggest tips to people starting a show was like, look, you're into this, you like this, you're really gonna do this. Okay, great, let's do it, but don't flake out on me.
Scheduling is the bane of my existence.
For sure.
Which which is great for the most part. You don't. And another reason why I love this, you don't. It doesn't have to be every Wednesday at 5:00. If something does come up, like, okay, can we do it that morning? Can we do it the next day?
Right.
You're not held to a set schedule. You can be flexible, but as long as you get that episode in that week, you're good. So
Right.
another reason why podcasting is awesome. You're not set. If you're a radio DJ or you're a TV personality, you got to be on at the same time and go a set duration. But not so with this, and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, that freedom of it.
Yeah,
And then without being live, you can edit. I highly edit my episodes just because I don't like saying I'm a perfectionist because I'm not quite, but I'm right on the verge of being a perfectionist. So
I don't edit that much if there is a major mistake or an audio glitch here and there, but I try to have our shows more conversational style. So sometimes if there is an or something like that, we do leave them in because it feels more natural for my show,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
That's not for
And
everybody though.
it's not, especially if you're doing something like I don't know. First one that pops in my head is like Lore with Aaron Mahnke. His show is obviously very edited, very pristine, very crisp, and it's amazing. There's a lot of audio dramas that obviously have to be highly edited as well. But if you're talking about like a conversation style podcast, yeah, you can get away from editing a little bit more.
Mhm.
But I still go and I edit. I listen to the full episode and edit as I go. Whenever I'm listening for a show like the one that I do with my sisters, the Three Musketeers. So I edit. I've edited every single podcast that I've been on. I've had several. I've had The Mundane and the Arcane, which was a D&D podcast that I had with some friends. Hi Hungry, I'm Dad, which hopefully, I guess you'll hear it here first, is hopefully coming back. And then also
that's how we met on those from your shows there.
Oh yeah, for sure. We met through Comic Palooza.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're running that program, and I'm really happy to have something like that in Houston because we need it. Fourth largest city in the country, and one of the biggest. Obviously, I mean, it doesn't compare to like San Diego Comic-Con or anything like that, but one of the biggest here in the state and in the surrounding states. So for sure, it's a great one to go to.
So with you guys talking fashion, Omar, Jared, what do you see in the future of, say, podcast fashion? Now I know you're wearing a beautiful Hips t-shirt there, Jared.
I am.
And I think one of the greatest things about starting a podcast is you got to make the merch for it, right?
I mean, what's that hoodie you're wearing?
Yeah,
there
this,
you go.
yeah, but not only that, I went fancy. I got a mic down here.
Oh yeah.
And
nice.
I got stuff on the back as well. So, but I'm wondering if there's a market for say functional podcast fashion. Maybe there's a little pocket for like a Shure SM58 mic, and or inside the jacket. I podcasting blazers, maybe some sport coats.
I think where you're leading to is, I mean, obviously if you're making films, you're hiding the mic as much as possible. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like some kind of hidden pocket for podcasters to put their mics in so they can just kind of walk around. Something a little bit more advanced than a lapel mic.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way that podcast will influence fashion is by adapting to sustainability, actually. Because I think if they're more clever about where they're getting their t-shirts made and maybe supporting local screen printers and local manufacturers, I think those people will come up with some of those ideas to do those things because they'll be motivated to, versus just looking at a bunch of production numbers. Because I've seen stuff like that, that for theatrical purposes have like a larger inner pocket and has kind of like a lining that keeps it from bulging on the top and stuff like that. So, so yeah, I think in that way they probably will, to be honest.
Awesome.
I mean, a lot of podcasts are going to the live streaming now. So, I mean, you can't just podcast in your underwear anymore for some folks. So,
You can.
Well, it depends on when you have the camera.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think, like, to that point, one of the most important things about podcasting and in what we do is branding and getting your name across. People recognize your logo and your everything about what you're doing, and that's the most important thing right there.
Yeah, I agree.
Like your t-shirts, pins, buttons, anything you can get people, hats, anything you can get people to wear. It's fashionable right there. Make it fashionable.
Yeah, and I think though you have to separate what you get people to buy and then what you actually get people to wear. Because sometimes people might be really excited, you might sell out of something, but then fast forward 5 or 10 years, and I'm at the local Goodwill, and I'm like, oh, this is a kind of cool logo. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I'll give it $1. I think the more that people think about it from that perspective, the more I think it'll help their branding, because it's like the hoodie that Ming is wearing. Like I'd actually probably rock that because I like the fact that it's on the bottom of it. It's like a little detail where it's not just some logo on the chest, and it's like, hey, that's it. I like.
I totally agree, and I like the white in the zipper. It's a little bit different. It's not just a black hoodie. It matches the logo and everything. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, and I can tell it's probably like a really thin jersey, so it's almost probably more like a t-shirt consistency than it is like a heavier sweatshirt consistency. So I mean, it's just little things like that make all the difference. And I feel like sometimes people just put like logos on things for the sake of logos on things and think like, okay, cool. That'll sell because it's like a hoodie. Everybody wants a hoodie, but I'm like, well, everybody has a hoodie. So how do you make your hoodie look cool outside of people just being like, I'm going to buy this to support you, but I'm never actually going to wear it.
You're spot on that jersey, Wade. I needed something that I could wear in Houston and not sweat my face off. So yeah, totally.
I am a little good at what I do.
Yeah, well done, my friend. Well done.
I am a little good at what I do.
So yeah. I guess for the new podcasters out there, I know that it can be a little daunting trying to find a good hosting site. Ming, Carrie, what are you guys using? I specifically am using Libsyn. I've used Libsyn for quite a while. The first year of podcasting that I did, I actually used SoundCloud, which, Ming, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin still uses SoundCloud, right?
Yeah, we started on Libsyn, but just with the volume, and they may have changed their pricing structure, but it used to be these charged by the amount of storage space you would take up. So, if you had 100 1 gig files or whatever, you would pay that, and if you went over a certain amount, you would have to pay more. And they moved over to SoundCloud, which charges a flat fee, and that saved Kevin a ton of money. And for us personally, we use SoundCloud as well for several reasons. The ease of setup is amazing. You can have a SoundCloud account set up in seconds, and the flat fee structure is very appealing to all our podcasters who, they just want to pay a small flat fee. They have a discount if you pay yearly, and it's just easy to use. You upload a file, artwork, title, description. And to get it, on all the syndication platforms is really easy as well. I think the thing I really like about it personally is once you upload an episode, hits all the distribution sites. But not only that, it hits them very quickly. I think maybe a minute goes by, and all iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, it's on Stitcher, Tune. I don't need to name all of them, but it hits them very quickly. And I just think for ease of use, I try to, for our podcasters, the easier it can be on them to get their shows up, the better. And for them, it's as easy as uploading a photo onto Facebook and throwing up a caption. It was like it's pretty much the same thing. And it's a combination of things. I think the only drawback is it hasn't happened recently, but they keep threatening to go out of business. I was like, oh man, that
Yeah.
not good. But I think they've got some cash flow going where I think they're going to be okay for a little bit.
I hope so.
Hopefully forever. But
Yeah.
In all honesty, that's one of the reasons why I switched over to Libsyn from SoundCloud, is because it was right around that time where they were first talking about, going out of business, and then Chance the Rapper came in and gave them a lot of money to help them stay afloat. So
I don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that being said, all the Libsyn gives you a ton of options for distribution, analytics, a lot of things. I just think for the average podcast user, it may be even overwhelming. So that's why I steer most of our podcasters over to SoundCloud.
I started on Libsyn when I first got into this, and did it for a long, long time until I started Metal Geeks. I did some research and I found Podbean, and I got this really great deal. I have like a gig of storage per month for a really low price, and I'm grandfathered into that. I have not touched it in like 10 years, but even when I was starting it, like the ease of use now is so much better than it was. There was points where I had to learn how to like edit RSS feeds and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, nope, I never want to do that again.
Wow.
Not validated. Yeah,
exactly.
But, yeah, I remember.
So these young kids nowadays, they have it so much easier than back in the day. But yeah,
right.
And not to knock Libsyn. I think we just did it because for his pricing. But Libsyn was so nice to me last year or earlier. Yeah, last year I realized I didn't have all my old episodes of MSRcast on my new feed. I reached out to them. They activated my feed for me for free. Let me copy everything over to my other feed and download everything, and then get it all working. And then they turned it off for no charge, no nothing. They just did it.
Great.
Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I love about Libsyn is the customer service is outstanding.
Even if you're not a customer anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you were a customer at one point, you're still a customer.
Yep. Exactly.
So Libsyn, like I said, I switched over to them, and I've been happy with them. The pricing is a little bit higher, but stay with them because they've helped me a lot in the long run. There are obviously some others. Blueberry is one. Buzzsprout is another. You can even get your own RSS feed on your own website and run it through there, and not even worry about a hosting site. And I mean, there's a lot to say about hosting your own RSS feed that you own, because then you're not having to deal with, anybody else. It's yours. You don't have to worry about, podcast hosting site A going out of business and you losing everything just because you decided
a little bit more
to
technical though. These companies that you pay every month, they take care of all that stuff for you now, But yeah, I know I've known some podcasters that have set up a server and run it off for another computer in their house,
Yeah.
That seems like too much work for me, but
But see, this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, in a sense of, if you're a new podcaster and you're looking to start a podcast, even if you're not getting somebody who knows podcasting to co-host, get somebody that knows podcasting a little bit just to help you out in the long run. Search. There's a lot of different Facebook groups. There's a lot of different, people on Twitter, people everywhere on all social medias that will help you. I mean, obviously be selective, know who you're getting involved with, but if you know somebody personally who knows podcasting a little bit more than you do, they'll probably be able to get you in the right direction.
And there are people out there, not just what Hips does, but other companies, they're training and they're teaching people what they need to do and how to, get their show out there. There, like you mentioned on the Facebook groups, and we've had Oziel on the show. He does a lot of that kind of training type of stuff. There's people out there that have made careers out of helping podcasters, which is amazing.
Ming, what about you guys? Are you doing anything with people who are not within the city?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We use streaming platforms or Zoom, and we can have you up and running on Spotify and iTunes and everything else within 30 minutes. We offer that. If you go to our website, you can sign up, and I jump in with you and talk you through it. We also do we do classes. We do podcasting classes. They're 2-hour classes where either online or in person, where I run you through basically everything I've learned in the last 11 years and just pass it on to you. So you don't have to make the same mistakes I do. And it cuts down a lot of frustration. And I just tell you everything that I've learned. Within the first hour, the second hour, I'd sit there and I podcast with you, and we actually record an episode. And that way you walk away, if you walk away or you have an episode already done by the time you leave the class. And it's something we've always wanted to do. It's something that came up going to so many Comic Cons, and people would come up and like, "Hey man, I love your podcast. How do I make one?" I'm like, "Well, listen, I can't. I can try to tell you in 10 minutes. I can do a real good effort, but we'd always dreamed of having like a longer term class where people can come and learn, and I could lay out everything, answer all their questions, because everyone's needs are different as well. So, and then have them, fully confident to record episodes after that class. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. It's and here the goal is like, all right, you've taken the class, now come back and record every week, and it's worked out pretty well.
That's one of the things
keep that consistency.
Yeah, one of the things we try to, at Comic Palooza, Ming knows, and you guys know, is the educational aspect of the podcast program too. We always have like the podcasting 101 panels. It's like, if you want to know about it, come listen to other podcasters talk to you about it. Yeah, I think that's very helpful.
I mean, just getting any kind of knowledge from somebody who's done it before, even if it's not the best, it at least gives you an idea of where to start. So, and I think, Omar, that's kind of where I came in for you, is where I had the experience, you had the know-how on a certain thing, and we kind of just took it and we tried to make it specific to you.
What
That's one of the good things.
Like I said, I got super lucky. I'm like, I definitely won the partnership lotto because I don't know.
You're gonna make me blush.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not that gay, but like they. I don't know, just so much. I know you. We talk. The way that we are both excited about these two facets just works so nicely together, and me just kind of being comfortable talking about this and talking about film and fashion, and you having such an in-depth knowledge of like screenwriting and character development and all that stuff, and then on top of all of the podcasting knowledge, it just made it super fluid in a way that I feel like if you are a new podcaster and you kind of have even like a couple of those things of a scenario, then you definitely should, kind of throw your hat in the ring, because I mean, what do you have to lose? And even in general, I'm a big person on a lot of the things that I have learned about myself through style, and things that I have like dealt with and traumas that I have processed through style, weirdly, are like little triumphs, because then you just get more comfortable with knowing yourself. And so this is kind of a cool way of being able to, share that, especially as a new podcaster. Being comfortable with that is just it's a really nice victory, because it just makes you comfortable with another part of yourself that's very different from being good at your job and also being good at being in front of the camera.
Now, Omar, you have Ming here, and you have Jared, and you have myself. Do you have any podcasting questions for us?
Other than immediately going tomorrow to buy a pair of headphones after work. I mean, I don't know. I guess, how do you deal with I guess fans, and stuff like that, I guess is a curious question because, you're in a scenario where a lot more people know you than you know them.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely have it in my world of, my microscopic world, just because people don't look like me in Houston. So I couldn't even imagine that on like a global scale,
I'll let Ming answer that one first because he has way more fans than we do.
For any watching, I'm not just a podcaster, but I was on a reality TV show for 7 seasons called Comic Book Men with Kevin Smith. I think one of the greatest joys in doing podcasts was when people would come up to me. It was like, "Hey, listen, man, I like the TV show. It's great. You and Kevin, you guys are great, but I really love the podcast." And even Kevin says this when people come up to him and they're like, "Hey, we like the movies, but we love Smodcast. We love your podcast." And I think we got so much joy out of that because the podcast, we came up with the idea, we created it, we recorded, like it's so we control every aspect of it. Whereas the movies, they were mainly Kevin, but he still had executives going, "Hey, you can do this, you can't, maybe you want to tone back on this," and most of the stuff that he worked on was mainly him, but maybe not 100%. Whereas the podcast was all him, and he was like, "Man." I feel the same way. I get such a thrill when I was like, "Wow, you really like that?" I was like, we poured our heart and soul into that. I always thought that was really cool. I think that's why you see a lot of actors and doing podcasts now because they have complete control over it. Mm-hmm. They can tell off color stories, maybe about their time on set, or they can talk about whatever independent project they're working on. They can, in the interviews, they can go way off book and way off the cuff, and that's why they're so good. And I think that's a great reason to be doing something like this for sure. But to answer your question, should you be lucky enough to have fans coming up to you? It's awesome. There's no other way to say it.
I've mentioned it before, but it's so weird when you have fans and they know more about you than you realize. It's a cool feeling. It really is. Cause it's like, I created a group for the show and there's people in that group that know more about me than I even realize that they know. It's like, Carrie's going to love this and he's going to love this. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm very transparent on the show.
You're like, oh God, I do love these things.
I do love these things. They are completely right. It's a really cool feeling when you have, it doesn't matter how many there are, but if you have fans like that, it makes everything worthwhile.
Yeah. I mean, getting that first fan email saying how much they love the show, that goes so far.
Agreed. When you're getting yours,
kind of all to the same degree. The first time you get like a hater leave a 1-star review, those are, I mean, some people in the podcast community say that you haven't made it until you have a hater. So
that's 100% true.
That's what, like, my whole Lisp thing earlier, because it was on a Blabbermouth. It was like they shared one of our podcast episodes and somebody made fun of my Lisp. I'm like, all right, so some stranger is making fun of me. I have made it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they at least listen to it and they know.
Right. At least I got a listener.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. So, keep them hating you, I guess. Keep them listening.
Yeah.
No publicity is bad publicity, right?
Exactly.
No, exactly. So, I guess anything else, any kind of other advice that we can give to newer podcasters or somebody who wants to start a podcast, maybe is holding off because they feel like they're inadequate in some way, or they just don't know the equipment and they're just really worried about getting into it. One thing that I would definitely mention is do some testing episodes.
Yeah.
Don't just go straight into an episode and be like, oh yeah, this one's going to be it. This one's going to be our first episode. Let's record. Let's do it. Because you're going to find yourself kind of stumbling through it and trying to, if you have a co-host, you're going to try to see like where you fit into the podcast together. You might have 30 years of friendship between the two of you, but until you get behind the mic, you don't necessarily know how your chemistry is going to be. So
Agreed.
Definitely do, not just one, but a few test episodes and really try to figure out the dynamic that you're going for.
Yeah, do some test episodes, and I would say have really good people that you trust listen to them and give you quality feedback, just like a test focus group, and take that stuff to heart, because I mean, you can always change up your podcast as you're doing it through the years and the episodes, but getting your niche down, and then the way your show is every episode, it's very important, I think.
Yeah, it all boils down to consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not inadequate. Anything holding you back is all in your head. I keep telling people, if you have a voice, if you can talk, you should be doing this. I truly believe that. And I find more often than not, I mean, if you're your first episode, if you're doing it with friends, if you've known them for a while, you'll be surprised how good you guys are going to sound, because you're just having a conversation.
It's never work if you're having fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so just record, and you'll work out kinks and figure things out, as you go along. But the important thing is not let anything keep you from starting, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty solid advice. So, all right, guys. Well, we're a little bit over an hour. I guess we can go ahead and cut it off there. But thank you all for joining us. We're really happy to see, first off, that there's so many newer podcasters that are coming to podcasting, and, just podcasts pop up every day. So, unfortunately, there are some that go away every day as well, but they keep getting replaced. So that's a good thing. Well, Omar, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that your time is pretty limited, so thank you for spending an hour with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was really enlightening, and it makes me feel a little less quirky that people also watch movies and notice things too.
For sure. And I think that's the great thing about this, is that our project definitely hits on something that people do already, and they don't necessarily even notice it. But yeah, it's there. It's out there. So okay, well, Ming, Carrie, thank you guys as well.
Thank you, sir.
We do have another, I guess, March episode coming up. We're gonna have Steve Olsher on. He is the creator of Podcast Magazine, so expect that coming out later in March. And any final thoughts, guys?
Nice to meet you, Omar. Good luck on everything. Can't wait to listen to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Omar, and and thank you guys, and thank to everybody watching and listening.
For sure.
All right. Yeah, I guess we want to promote our social and our email. So social is at hipshtx, and you can email us hipshtx@gmail.com. If you have any questions, get in touch with us on social, get in touch with us through email. We'll be able to help you out. If you're looking to start a podcast and you need some help, definitely any three of me, Carrie, and Ming, we can help you out. Obviously, Ming has a business dedicated to helping you out. So definitely contact him at a Shared Universe podcast network, and he can get you set up in the right direction for sure. So, yeah. All right, we're tooting our own horn on this episode, so I guess we'll go ahead and call it there. All right, guys. Bye. Thank you so much.